Welcome to Deadball TV, everybody. In today's video, we're going to be going through Group A of the AFC World Cup qualifiers. I'm going to go team by team in this video, try to make it as quick as possible because the sun is going down as I speak. Before I get into my analysis and some of my takeaways and observations from this window, number one, drop a like on the video if you could, and number two, hit subscribe if you want more videos covering Asian football here on YouTube. I've already dropped, I think, 3 different videos covering the topic, most of them with Michael Talks Football. Shout out to him. You can find those on the channel. Normally I'd start with winners and losers, but like I said, we already have an entire hour-long video dedicated to that. So instead, I'm going to go biggest surprise and biggest flop to start this. And drop yours down below in the comments, please. For biggest surprise, I'm going to have to say North Korea's technical ability, or maybe you could even say North Korea's shooting ability. I mean, God willing, their ballistic missiles never become as accurate as their set piece takers, or I think we're in a lot of trouble. No, but seriously, I encourage everybody right now to pause this video, open up a new tab, and look at the goals North Korea scored during this last window, because at least one, genuinely, Puskas nominee. I'm not being hyperbolic. The free kick against Qatar might be a Puskas nominee. I think you get extra bonus points for doing it during a typhoon. Biggest flop from this window, I'm going to narrow in and say Qatar's midfield, who got absolutely embarrassed by the UAE, especially in the second half. I thought it was Fatih's worst game for the Qatari national team. This was a guy who was, I think, in my AFC Asian Cup team of the tournament, and he was a complete fraud against the UAE. Your arch rival at home to be that poor? I mean, it was embarrassing. Really, I could have said Qatar overall, but I wanted to kind of focus the blame in on one particular section of the team. I probably could have gone the defense as well, but I'm going with the midfield. You guys let me know in the comments again your biggest surprise and your biggest fraud down below. We will start our team by team analysis with Qatar, who surrendered the lead in both of their games against North Korea and the UAE. They were doing their best French during World War II impersonation. Scored first against the UAE, and I thought had a pretty strong first half overall, and then just collapsed in the 60th minute. Like, there's no other way, there's no other word to describe what happened. It was like they just stopped playing ball and all of a sudden got completely bullied by the UAE, and maybe the UAE could have even had 4. Really a shocking window overall from Qatar. We talked about this at length on other videos on the channel, but I think maybe you could say, okay, Jack, it's the first game in round 3. Maybe they got nervous in front of their home crowd. Surely they'll put it together against North Korea. Surely they could do it against 10 men, North Korea. Well, they couldn't. Not only did they have the lead in this game as well through Almoaz Ali, banger by the way, not only did they have a man advantage against North Korea in this game, they still couldn't get it done. You could see in the stats and in the game that Qatar had more of the monopoly on overall shots, right? Overall chances on target. But if you look at actual quality of chances, it was a little disturbing how they weren't able to generate much against a 10-men North Korean side. And I don't want to see people in the comments using the pitch as an excuse, because North Korea's got to play on the pitch too. And again, they're a man down. And I would say Qatar's best chance being up a man outside of the Almoaz Ali banger was probably in like the 90th minute. Like, it genuinely took the entire second half for Qatar to really get going. And North Korea, very impressive team. I'm going to talk about them next. Not exactly a defensive juggernaut. And this is Qatar we're talking about here. This is a team that needs its offense to be successful. And the offense, I guess you could say it stepped up in the fact that they scored 2 goals in this game, but I guess how they were neutered in the second half would have me very concerned. And this window could be a bit of a scary reality check for Qatar. Like, if this is the real Qatar, you know, will the real Qatar please stand up? If this is them, they're probably not going to finish top 2. In fact, they're definitely not going to finish top 2 because they're not taking a single point from Iran and Uzbekistan if they play like this. So, big question marks regarding Qatar now. If we're going to have a little bit of sympathy for Qatar, you could say that all 5 goals they conceded during this window were absolute rockets. Like, all 3 UAE goals, ridiculous. Both North Korea goals, ridiculous. I mean, like I already said, the free kick was a Puskas nominee. Well, the actual shot from open play was filthy. Like, I don't know what these long shot ratings are going to be in the next edition of EA Sports. I mean, probably North Korea is not going to exist in the game, which is a damn shame. But if they did exist, I mean, everybody in the team needs a 90 overall in the long shot because these guys are ridiculous. Obviously, that's what they're training every day back in Pyongyang. So Qatar, unlucky in that they faced incredibly high quality of shots, but that's still not an excuse. You're the two-time defending Asian champions. There's nothing else to say about this team other than it was a bad window. You lose to your arch rival at home, get ran off the pitch in the second half, and then you cannot beat North Korea up a man. Like, it's an F window for Qatar. There's nothing you can say, at least that I think, where you can say, nah, this was actually a C- window or a D window because ... That just doesn't exist. You really look at this Qatar side, and it is Almoaz Ali or Akram Afif or bust. Like, outside of these two guys, nobody shows up consistently for the national team. Somehow these guys decided to show up as a group for the Asian Cup. Congratulations to them. But now it genuinely looks like their 2026 aspirations are in doubt already after 2 games. I mean, these were maybe their 2 easiest games that they're going to have the entire cycle, and they got 1 point. So Qatar massively mudded after this first window. Moving on to North Korea, who were the surprise team for some, but I just want to say, I told y'all these boys were legit. I did not know what they were cooking in the shadows of Pyongyang, but I knew it was going to taste good. And I'm going to say it right now, they played some really good ball against the Uzbeks in Tashkent, to the point where I was genuinely worried near the second half of the game that the Uzbeks were going to drop points. As you guys know, I'm a huge Uzbek simp. I would love to hear from the Uzbeks in the comment section. Were you guys impressed with how North Korea played? Because I certainly was. There's a moment in the game where Kamrobekov concedes a pretty stupid penalty, and had North Korea scored that, the score would have been 1-1, and who knows what would have happened in the second half. A second half that was completely owned by the North Koreans. Can you guys imagine if North Korea left Tashkent with a point? It would have been insanity on both sides. Insanity for the North Koreans because very few teams leave Tashkent with a point, and absolute chaos inside the Uzbek FA because you're dropping points against North Korea at home in the first game of round 3. You're supposed to be favorites to win the group next to Iran. Honestly, for the entertainment, it would have been cool to see, but of course I'm glad that the Uzbeks eventually got the dub. Now, one of the biggest surprises with North Korea for me is that they don't approach the game like some of the other teams, some of the weaker teams, I should say, in Asia. Like, these guys really don't bunker down and just pray for a set-piece goal. Like, they really will go at you. We saw that against Qatar. Even down a man, they will still play attacking football. And I'm not being hyperbolic at all when I say North Korea might have like a top 6, top 8 technical level of all of the Asian national teams still alive in round 3. And it's certainly better than some teams like Australia and China. I mean, I don't even think it's up for debate. North Korea are heading into the next window with the UAE at home and Kyrgyz Republic away. Y'all, can they get 6 points from that? Like, I'm not saying that's my prediction. I'm just saying, can you imagine they walk out of that window with 6 points? I mean, I think Qatar and the UAE would be the biggest losers in that case, and that would be ridiculous. And last thing I want to say, can you imagine if these guys actually got to play in Pyongyang instead of Myanmar or Laos? How scary would North Korea be then? Moving on to the Uzbeks, they did take 6 points from this window, but I'm going to say on a letter grade, it was probably a B window. I think the first half against North Korea was impressive. I think the Uzbeks should have had more than 1 goal. Kamrobekov penalty aside, they were dominant. And then, of course, Katanich decided to completely park the bus in the second half and just survive wave after wave of North Korean attacks. Nevertheless, they did get the dub, even if it was a bit fortunate. And then they go away to the Kyrgyz Republic, and they come from behind on 2 different occasions to win the game 3-2 in what I would consider probably the best match of the entire window. If it's not that, I would go the Jordan 3-1 win over Palestine. That was also a complete banger. And I think the Uzbeks deserve more credit than what they're getting for that Kyrgyz result. I went over in my predictions how Kyrgyz Republic have never beat Uzbekistan, how it might be a rivalry geographically, but it's not really a rivalry on the football pitch in the sense that the Uzbeks dominate. But the Kyrgyz Republic obviously got up for the game. Bishkek is not an easy place to play. It's not quite the fortress that Tashkent is, or Ashgabat, but it's not, you know, what's the easiest home place to play? Probably it might be Iran Stadium, and we're going to get to that later. But my point is that they were able to come back and show an important fighting spirit. It would have been easy for Uzbekistan to just get the draw away, but no, they pushed for it. All 3 goals that they scored were very, very impressive. Shomurodov, bro. Let's talk about Uranov's game winner. The back heel from Shomurodov was absolute filth, and then Uranov turned into prime Neymar and just juked the entire Kyrgyz back line before he put a golazo in the top corner on the far side. I think that might be Uranov's best ever moment for the national national team, and I don't even think he can top that, quite frankly. I'm used to Uranov being wasteful as hell, and the fact that he did that had my jaw pretty much on the floor. In short, I think we saw the best and worst of Uzbekistan in this window. At best, they're one of the strongest teams in Asia. The technical ability of this team is ridiculous. They have star power. They're extremely difficult to break down. And on the worst side, you see a team that can get complacent. They can be very lazy. There's a lot of weird infighting sometime in the Uzbek squad. I think it was the set piece header, the second goal for the Uzbeks in this game, where Masharipov is complaining to his teammate. I think it's Nezralayev who puts the cross in. He's complaining to him because he didn't receive the ball at the top of the box, even though the cross was completed and scored. And he's still bitching and moaning to his teammate. I saw that, and that pissed me off. Masharipov is I like him, but I think he's a bit of a diva. Like I said, you see the best of the Uzbeks and the worst of the Uzbeks. If they can get more of the best throughout this qualifying cycle, they're going to win Group A. If they kind of resort and kind of crack mentally and start infighting, then Iran's going to win the group and the Uzbeks are going to finish second. That's just how it's going to go down. But overall, still a very strong start for the Uzbeks. I think Katanich won't like the fact they conceded 2 against the Kyrgyz Republic, and I don't think he'll like how many chances North Korea had, so I think he'll want to tighten that down. Of course, there was no Husanov in this window, but I thought it was funny. Somebody commented that if Uzbekistan don't qualify for 2026, that Katanich will be imprisoned. And honestly, after sleeping on it, I think that's a fair punishment, because the amount of talent in this team definitely warrants a prison sentence should you fail to qualify for the World Cup, especially when the rest of the teams in this group, not named Iran, look so beatable. I do want to talk about the Kyrgyz Republic briefly, because I think they did surprisingly well in this window, especially the game against the Uzbeks. The Iranian game, I think that they put up a fight. Of course, the Kyrgyz Republic, they're not a bunch of soy boys, right? These dudes are up in the mountains, probably doing handstand push-ups, doing squats with like goats and stuff on their back. I mean, they're tough men. These are proper lads here. They just don't have a lot of game changers in this Kyrgyz squad. That has always been the biggest concern that I have for them, right? If you're trying to finish 4th, is Joel Kojo, and I forgot the left winger, he's actually pretty saucy. If those guys are the ones who are going to carry your attack, is that good enough for a top 4 finish? I kind of think the answer is no. And this is where I'm going to make a prediction about Kyrgyzstan that the Kyrgyz fans are not going to like here on the channel. And please forgive me, but I really feel like this window is going to be the best that we see from Kyrgyzstan. I kind of think that they started round 3 and were like, let's just go for it. We have nothing to lose. Maybe we can get some surprise results here and really start our campaign well. I have serious doubts that they're going to be able to maintain this level of play, especially if the losses start stacking up. Like, if they lose to North Korea at home in Bishkek, I kind of think morale is just completely shot. I've said this before, but I remember at the Asian Cup when their manager said that the Asian Cup wasn't a priority and that they were planning for the 2027 Asian Cup. I don't even think he said they're planning for the 2026 World Cup. I think he just jumped ahead to the next tournament, and I wonder if that mentality is going to seep into the squad a little bit if the results start going negatively. They do play Qatar in their next game, and I kind of got to see 3 points if I'm going to take them seriously. In my preview, I talked about their best results being against Oman recently in round 2, having picked up 4 points in their 2 matches. But look at Oman. Oman are one of the worst teams in round 3 right now. I mean, they look like they couldn't score if there wasn't a goalkeeper playing for the other team. And so it's really hard for me to say, okay, but they did well against Oman, therefore they're going to do well against the Iranians and the Uzbeks and the Qataris and the Emiratis. I'm not comfortable saying that. Even North Korea at home is no guarantee of 3 points. I actually think that's going to be a banger of a match. That might be a must-watch. But yeah, you guys let me know how you feel about the Kyrgyz Republic down below in the comments. Moving on to Iran. Look, it wasn't pretty, but it still was 6 points. I'm going to be offensive and say that they could have even tied against the UAE away, walked away from this window with 4 points, and I still would not have given their window an F. It wouldn't be an A window. I'd probably give it a C, C-, but as long as they took care of business in the home leg against the UAE and didn't have any other bad results, it's just kind of typical Iran. Like, this window was the most Iranian thing I've ever seen, bro. Like, when I think of Iran, I think of like 1-0 victories, Taremi missing one-on-ones, and like cataphracts cavalry. Those are like the 3 things that, and maybe Prince of Persia, the video game, or the movie, which I think is actually underrated. These guys were born and bred to win 1-0. Now, just because the score was 1-0 to both the Kyrgyz game and the UAE UAE game doesn't mean that Iran clawed their way to these victories. I'm going to say it right now, Kyrgyzstan 1-0 at home. I'm going to blame the pitch 90% for that result. If the Iranians play the Kyrgyz Republic on a pitch that isn't ass cheeks, there's no way they win that game 1-0. Not only does the pitch suck ass, but obviously the players are really upset, still upset at what's happening with the Iranian FA. I mean, just look at that Emmy's post-game comments. So I think that result was more to do with off-field issues than it was like Iran just forgetting how to ball. Like Qatar, they forgot how to ball. Iran, they didn't forget how to ball. Moving to the UAE, I know they won 1-0, but the amount of chances that they missed in this game was ridiculous. I literally wrote down the chances that were missed, the blatant chances that were missed in this game. Taremi had 3 one-on-one misses, 1 in the 8th minute, 1 in the 62nd, and 1 in the 77th. Azmoun had that one-on-one miss as well in the 80th minute, and Jakambash had that point-blank header that was saved, and it was a world-class save, I think in the maybe beginning of the second half. The point is, Iran probably should have won this one 4-0. I think the UAE are actually going to get out of this feeling quite fortunate that this wasn't a bloodbath. Like, I think if the UAE lost this one, let's say 4-0, 3-0 at home, then I think it completely overshadows what they were able to do against Qatar. But because Taremi forgot how to shoot, which is weird because he also scored a goal in this window to beat the Kyrgyz Republic, but was not his best window, was it? Azmoun, I mean, he's still generating chances, but his shooting boots have been lost in the bottom of the Black Sea. And Jakambash, honestly, was a great header, but like I said, just a world-class save. I'm not too worried about Iran is the point of my analysis here. Oh, we are really running out of sunlight. I'm going to turn the light on. Hold on. And we are back with the lights on this time. But yeah, moral of the story, man, Iran, they pulled in Iran. They still cooked how the Iranians cooked. The dishes that they serve up just happen to be 1-0s. I mean, it's a story as old as the Sasanian Empire. I love these Persian Empire jokes. They're so fun to make. If I'm Iranian, then I think I'm already aware of the timetable for this team coming to an end soon, right? Like, I think their average age is like 29 or 30 years old in the starting 11. They're one of the oldest teams in Asia. The clock is really ticking. I mean, if the last Asian Cup wasn't the last hurrah, then 2026 is certainly the last hurrah for this generation. And there's a lot of off-field problems that are kind of hampering the development of this team. But you're still one of the top dogs in Asia. The only thing I see that would threaten the top dog in Asia, note, top dog doesn't equal best. It just means one of the giants. The only thing that I think could jeopardize that is if the Uzbeks beat Iran in the next game. Because as upstart as the Uzbeks have been, they've been unable to beat Iran in the last 3 matches. They have 1 loss and 2 draws. But if they are able to exercise those Persian demons and they can finally get a result here, then I think suddenly that end of the tunnel, you know, normally we say the light at the end of the tunnel, but with the Iranians, it's like the hellhole at the end of the tunnel. The pit into the inferno suddenly seems a lot closer than it might actually be. If the Uzbeks win the next game 2-0 or 2-1 or something like that, or even if it's it could be a 1-0 penalty win. I don't care what it is. Then I think you look at the vulnerability of this Iranian side, and you say, okay, this is really bad now. But 1-0 wins against the Kyrgyz Republic and UAE, I'm not worried. And the last team we have to talk about is the UAE. Now, you guys know I'm very bearish on Paulo Bento as a manager. I feel like he needed a signature win as UAE manager for me to put any respect on his name, and I'll give him credit. He got that against Qatar. It was a pretty underwhelming first half and then an absolute beast mode second half by the Emiratis. So congratulations to you and congratulations to Paulo Bento. Now that we've gotten the compliments out of the way, we can zoom out and say of the 4 halves of football played during this window, the UAE were pretty shit for 3 of them. And so I don't know how much congratulating we should do for Mr. Bento more than what I've already done. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not ready to say that Bento has figured it out. What I am ready to say is that Harib Sukhail is an absolute stud. So I'm ready to say that. I'm ready to heap some praise on some individual UAE players, but as a team overall, man, they still seem very vulnerable. Like, I think I was saying it about Qatar earlier. I think Qatar and the UAE genuinely are kind of the same team. Like, you look at them offensively and you're like, okay, they can put 3 goals up on you. If you don't have a good game defensively, they will score. They can run it up against you. You look at the midfield and it's like, okay, they have some destroyers, maybe not the most creative, but it's kind of a well-rounded box-to-box built midfield. They can do a shift, right? They're not world-class, but again, again, you can't play like shit and just run them over. And then you get to the back line and you say, Jesus Christ, this is diabolical. This is really bad. And because of this team composition, it's kind of difficult to predict how the UAE are going to do, right? Because I think when they play the better sides, the Uzbeks, even the North Koreans and the Iranians, I think they're just going to lose every single time because they don't have a back line that can keep clean sheets against the attacks of those three aforementioned teams. But when they play at Qatar, another kind of Western style cowboy gunslinging style team, or the Kyrgyz Republic, who also cannot keep clean sheets to save their life, what does it look like? There's no guarantee that the UAE are going to win those games. Like, they might win them in a shootout, like they did 3-1 against Qatar, or they might be wasteful on the day. This isn't a particularly clinical side. They're kind of a high volume, one of those teams where the wingers do more of the scoring than the actual 9. So what does that result in? It results in a lot of ups and downs. And so I think we're going to see a lot of ups and downs from UAE going forward. I was a little concerned how bad they looked against Iran at home. Like, I know Iran are better, but the UAE and Bento, I think, paid them way too much respect. They really should have gone at Iran. I don't even know what the UAE's best chance of the game was. Like, probably a set piece header. It really wasn't enough. I thought they were going to capitalize on the second half against Qatar and really do something. But instead, all they did was park the bus for some reason. And again, I think the fact that Taremi couldn't finish and Azmoun has forgotten how to score kind of sheltered the result from being embarrassing. Like, if Iran took care of business like they should have, then I think Bento's under some heat right now, both for his approach to the game and the actual performance and the scoreline. But it was a 1-0, so I think everybody kind of lives to fight another day. The UAE are the exact kind of team that if they played Japan right now, for example, that Japan would score 6 goals because the UAE is simply too open at the back. So I guess my ending question for you guys is, was the Qatar game a fluke? Was that just a moment of brilliance from the UAE, or was it a moment of disaster from Qatar? Was that the real UAE or the fake UAE? You guys let me know, because I think they're one of the more difficult teams to assess in Asia. Like, I genuinely feel like I can make more accurate predictions about North Korea than I can about the UAE. That's just how I feel. I don't know. If you guys disagree, let me know down below in the comments. But I'm going to end the video there, guys. The moon is literally staring me in the face right now. It's absolutely crazy. So that's how I know I've been rambling for far too long. You guys let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I'm going to be back here for Group B, so make sure you hit subscribe for that. And of course, guys, there's going to be live streams for the next round of World Cup qualifying. There's going to be predictions. There's going to be analysis, winners and losers. I'm going to be basically flooding YouTube with AFC content. So stick around, hit subscribe. If you're listening on streaming platforms, give the podcast a 5-star rating. Drop a like on the video. I don't know if I reminded you guys to do that already. And of course, if you want to, lastly, you can follow me on social media. The link is in the description. I appreciate y'all for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.